Over the past 5 decades, the mission of Maranatha has been characterized by a consistent focus on specific structures. Seventh-day Adventist churches, schools, and water wells. This successful formula has been repeated thousands of times and has included tens of thousands of volunteers, many who are Adventists themselves. But today, we're focusing on parts of Maranatha that sit outside of the norm. An unusual construction project in Wyoming, and a volunteer whose path to Maranatha was unconventional. "40 miles from the nearest town, occupied by mostly wildlife, nearly 100 people have gathered each year in what seems like an unusual location. Since 1997, they have been coming to this outpost to protect and learn about what the property holds. Thousands and thousands of dinosaur bones."
Right now, we're on our annual dinosaur dig on the Hanson Ranch here in Wyoming. We have close to 100 people in camp this week, and everyone is working on an excavation. Everyone here is probably digging up a dinosaur bone. It's one of the few places where we can almost guarantee that you'll find a bone. You might actually get sick of finding bones, and that's fun. But what's really neat about the project, everyone here contributes to the science.
The property is located in the middle of the Lance Formation, a U-shaped section of sandstone that swoops through northeastern Wyoming. It is known for being one of the most fertile dinosaur fields on Earth. For Brenda Hanson-Ballwork, it's home.
It was a wonderful place to grow up. When we were little, we would be working cattle out here, and you look down and you see a vertebra this big around, you know that's a dinosaur. On Sundays, after Sunday dinner, we would take our friends, we would say, "Would you like to go up and pick up bones?" And they usually did, and so we would walk along the ridges, and they would pick up dinosaur bones, and we would give them to them for souvenirs of the day at the ranch.
Brenda's grandfather homesteaded this ranch in 1908, and she and her husband Al still live here. Over the years, paleontologists would approach the couple about building a field station to help facilitate excavation on the site, but they weren't comfortable handing the property over to just any scientist.
So, Al and I prayed about that, for God to lead us to scientists who would be willing to come out here and excavate our bones and teach not only the evolutionary viewpoint, but the creation viewpoint too, and let people make up their own minds.
Then, in the mid-1990s, Dr. Arthur Chadwick, professor of paleontology, geology, and biology at Southwestern Adventist University in Texas, was invited to tour the property.
When I saw the project, I said, this is something that I need to get involved with. Not because I was interested in dinosaurs, but what happened was the ranch owner took me up on a ridge and said to get out of the truck, and I tried to get out on the ground, and there were dinosaur bones all over the ground. So I said, I've got to dedicate some of my life to trying to preserve this scientific data.
The project originated because we were seeking to preserve the dinosaur bones, but then it really grew into an outreach, really a ministry, because we were a Christian organization doing the absolute best field-leading science that we can do. And eventually we had so many fossils that we had to open a museum back at Southwestern where people from around the country can come and learn about the project. They can also learn about Christians and how we implement science into our research projects.
In the early 2000s, we built a structure here, our camp headquarters. It was a unique construction, and some mistakes were made in the planning of it, in the construction of it, that meant that it wasn't going to last forever. And it gradually wore down and started leaking. And then 3 years ago, it blew away in the summer after we were gone, fortunately. And so we had no place to headquarter our dig. And when that was gone, we were devastated.
Despite losing their facilities, digs continued, albeit in less than optimal conditions.
I have had difficulties because right now we're meeting outside in a tent with no air conditioning. It's very difficult to teach a class under those circumstances. We do it and it works, but it's difficult.
So the living situations are not for the faint of heart. The tents are very nice, but the shower facilities and everything, particularly for the women, they aren't the biggest, and it's really hard sharing 4 showers between 100 people. I mean, it's just crazy because you all come in and you're dirty.
But despite all the challenges, the experience created here is making a huge impact on everyone involved.
One of the most profound lessons that God has taught me out here in the middle of Wyoming is how I can learn from the people around me here at the dig.
Southwestern Adventist University reached out to Maranatha for help building a new field station. Maranatha is known for building churches, schools, and drilling water wells all over the world, but tackling a project like this one would definitely be unique.
We listen, we talk, we try to say if there's any way at all that we can help, then we try to do that. Maranatha exists to spread the gospel around the world, and this is a unique way to spread the gospel. It's different, but it's something that we can help support through the ministry that we do through construction. And so if we can help, we're willing to look at that.
Plans were drawn up for a new field station that would include classroom space, offices, bathrooms, and showers, as well as a commercial kitchen. Completing the building would prove more challenging than most North American projects.
Life is very different out here than it would be for most North American volunteer projects, where usually we're at a youth camp or building a new church or renovating a school or that type of thing. And here, it's very remote. This is the least populated county in Wyoming, and Wyoming's the least populated state in the whole U.S.
Everything had to be brought from far away, from the custom timber to the volunteer labor.
Well, I enjoy working for Maranatha. You get to know different leaders, and they're different styles, and you get to know acquainted with people. They come from all over the United States, and you rub shoulders with them, get to know them personally, and it's a pleasure to do that so that we create a community within a community here.
Volunteers made considerable progress on the field station and will continue to work to complete the project before the next dig session.
The impact that Maranatha is going to have on this program by helping us build this new field station, I don't think it can be put into words. This project should mean so much to Christians. I think the public views Christians, especially creationists, maybe as ignorant and incapable of doing science. But we're trying to lead our field in the way we conduct this project, and that gets us respect in the secular community. We are Christians, and we believe in creation, but we want to do the best science possible, and we want the data to lead us. Even though we have a different worldview from evolution, the data should lead us to our conclusions. And this will allow us to continue our work well into the future.
In March 2023, volunteers will return to Wyoming to continue work on the field station. The 8,000 square foot building is slated to be completed by June, just in time for the next dino dig. Projects like this one in Wyoming are only possible thanks to the work of dedicated volunteers. To learn more or join one of Maranatha's stateside projects, visit maranatha.org/volunteer. "16-year-old Rebecca Delaney's life had a rocky start, one where Maranatha and missions were a distant, unimaginable dream. But God had a plan for her life, one that has opened her world in big and unimaginable ways. At the young age of 16, Rebecca Delaney has already been on 4 mission trips with Maranatha in less than 1 year, with more on the horizon. She doesn't hold a record for the most number of trips, but she may have one of the more unique stories for how she ended up in missions in the first place. Rebecca's story begins many years ago when she was living in a desperate situation with her 5 siblings.
My biological parents, from the earliest I can remember, they were always on heavy drugs, and they were always very abusive. We mostly lived in like a 1-bedroom apartment, and there was 6 of us children plus the 2 parents. We never took a bath, really. I only remember like 2 times ever taking a bath. I'd always dream about, a home to where we could run and play outside. And I was like, I want to have a lot of siblings and, a family that would just love me.
But while she was dreaming of a new life, things only got worse. Eventually, Rebecca and her siblings were picked up by the authorities when her mom punched her little brother in a Walmart.
I remember when we were riding on our way to the police station, I remember looking up out the window, and I was like, okay, God, if you're there, why are you doing this to me? And why would you be letting this happen to me?
She ended up in foster care, but it wasn't enough to bring Rebecca and her siblings the love and stability they needed. In another town not too far away, Catherine and Dale Delaney had been contemplating a big decision after returning from their first mission trip.
After our first trip back from Maranatha, we just were so on fire and felt like we needed to do more, and we had an empty home. Our kids, both Dale's grown children and my grown children, were out of the home, so we came home to an empty house all the time, and we just felt like we had a lot to offer, and we discussed adopting.
In the meantime, Rebecca and her siblings were awaiting the fate of their future. Then one day, Rebecca came home from school to discover one of her little sisters had moved out, but her foster mom refused to say where she had gone.
I, cry myself to sleep every night. I'm still dreaming of that dream home, but I'm like praying out loud, I need to be back with my siblings. And so I come home from school another day, and it just so happens that my other younger sister is gone. 2 of my sisters are gone. Another one of my brothers was already gone in another home. And so I'm very depressed, And so I come home from school another day, and she's, my social worker is there. And so she's like, so the next foster home that you're going to, the lady is going to come pick you up the last day of school.
So the day I met Rebecca was a spelling bee that she had on her last day of school, and they were in competition, and I was invited to go. So I went to her school and sat and watched her finish up the spelling bee, and at that point in time we met for the first time. We were both scared and a little worried about meeting one another for the first time.
After the bee, Catherine loaded Rebecca into the car, took her to lunch, then settled in for the hour drive to Hardyville, Kentucky, a rural farming community. Catherine told her about the house, the acres of property, the animals, and other children her age who were already there.
As she's telling me these things, we pull up and then we park, and she goes, oh, and I forgot to tell you something. And literally right when she says that, my 2 younger sisters that I'd been separated from for like 2 months come running out of the house. They're like, we've been waiting for you. We're so glad you're here. And we run to each other and we're hugging, and they drag me into the house and they run me upstairs. They're like, look at our rooms. And they were showing me all their toys, and we were crying because we were so excited to see each other again.
In the end, Catherine and Dale adopted Rebecca, her 2 sisters, and 2 of her brothers. Today, the Delaneys are a family of 12, with kids ranging in age from 8 to 22. Rebecca had everything she had ever dreamed of: a big house with a yard, lots of siblings, food to eat, new clothes that didn't have to be fished out of the trash, beds with real blankets, and most importantly, stability and love.
2 weeks after being here, I was so excited. I had completely let my guard down. I was already calling them Mom and Dad. I never dreamed that I would bring myself to that point. And so I was like, maybe God, has a plan after all.
In a new home, new school, and with new parents, Rebecca's life was dramatically different from where she had come. She was thriving in every area of her life. But Catherine and Dale wanted to open her eyes and heart to God and missions.
We've never lost our desire to work with Maranatha. It's just something that's burned into our hearts. So we have watched a lot of 3ABN and showed our children the Maranatha mission stories, and it was just something that every time we watched, we just felt like we needed to tell our kids, this is what you need to be doing.
Maranatha had done, a lot for me and spiritually, and it was a good thing and a good project to be involved in, and I told Rebecca that she, might have think about that, because she had a big interest in some of the same thoughts that we had.
When she turned 15 years old, Rebecca ended up on her first mission trip. It was to Tennessee, where she helped to build a new church for the Jamestown Seventh-day Adventist congregation.
When she came back, she was just kind of bubbling over. It did something for her spiritually as well, and I knew it would. She was so excited. She couldn't wait to go back. She wanted to do another one, and it, it just kind of grew from there.
While Rebecca was on her mission trip to the Jamestown Project, she was sharing her story, and the folks there just were really touched by her life story, and they all got together and started planning without her knowledge that there was this trip coming up to Kenya. And unbeknownst to all of us, they all gathered up funding to help support her trip, and it was just an amazing gift for her to be able to go on this trip.
The project was to go to the Kajiado Adventist School and Rescue Center. Volunteers would be building a staff housing structure on the campus. Little did Rebecca know that she'd be serving an entire school of kindred spirits. Kajiado is a haven for young girls who have experienced trauma and abuse in the form of child marriage and female genital mutilation. Most come to the school as rescues or runaways. Few ever return home, leaving them essentially orphans.
I can relate to those girls in ways because, I understand that, some of them were saying they don't feel like they didn't have anybody or feel like they were loved or wanted. And at a point in my life, I felt the same way, like I wasn't wanted or loved. And so in ways I can relate to the feeling that no one wants me. And so I, feel close to them because I understand in ways that other people wouldn't. And so when I heard about that, I was kind of really excited because, it was a lot of girls kind of my age, and I wanted to be able to relate to them in some circumstances that, they could feel like, maybe God was forgetting about them. And I wanted to be able to relate with them and just talk about experiences on that kind of level with them.
At the project, between working on the construction site, Rebecca spent time with the girls, playing and connecting with them.
I think some of the similarities that I have with the girls at the Kajiado school was that I've experienced bad too. And so I can relate to them in a lot of ways. But then I saw how they still went through bad, but they didn't let that bother them. And I'm trying to make that happen in my case too. Yes, I went through bad, but I'm not letting that bother me. I'm just moving on, just like those girls are. I asked them their names, and I kind of, gently start a conversation, and I just sit down with them, and we just start talking like we've known each other forever. And I just, God got brought up, and I started saying a few things about God. And one of the girls just started opening up to her experience, and I was like, surprisingly, I can relate to that.
But the history of a painful past isn't the only thing Rebecca shared with the girls. What they also shared was the promise of a new future and hope found in Jesus.
Never give up. I feel that sometimes we are going through hard things, and I know going through my personal experience, I felt as if no one cared and as if there wasn't a God. I struggled with that. I asked myself, how could there be a God and still me going through these things? And I was looking down and I wasn't looking up. And I thought that, he obviously has left me because he's not with me. And one of my favorite verses that I learned after I got here was Hebrews 13:5. And the Lord will never leave us nor forsake us. And I just want to encourage you, even though we're going through a very dark cloud and it seems like we will never get out of it and that we are alone. You are not alone, and that you will, God is always by your side, and I believe that He's letting you go through those trials for a reason, because I know if I wouldn't have had the scars that I do now, I wouldn't be the same person today. God could show us that He could definitely change our situations and turn them into good. I think there was always times that I kind of prayed out of frustration towards God, maybe not towards God fully, but in situations that I was upset and I wanted to blame it on Him. Because I had always heard that He was a loving God, and I was like, how could a loving God allow bad things to happen? I feel like I could trust God with anything now, because coming from what I did, I know I blamed Him a lot. But I was like, I can only picture God sitting in heaven, kind of laughing, and He's like, my precious child, just give me a little bit. And He's like, I got your back, I'm there with you.
From Kenya, Rebecca went on to serve in Peru twice with Maranatha. She was even invited to share her testimony on live television in front of thousands of people.
Well, I do see a change in Rebecca. I think ever since she started the project in Jamestown, I think it has spiritually just grown her in so many ways. She is even more, has more of a desire now to serve the Lord than ever.
I really still want to keep traveling the world. I, have a passion for going to foreign countries and sharing the love of Christ. But I also really love and have a big interest in the medical field. I've had thoughts of becoming a midwife in foreign countries. Also, if not, then I'd really want to be an RN here.
But for now, until she's done with school, home is where Rebecca will be. Home, a place that has come to mean something different to her in recent years.
I'd always dreamed of a big, gigantic home and a ton of siblings and, just a place where I could run outside and do what I wanted. But now I don't see home as that anymore. I know that, sure, this is a good home for now. I think of it now as my temporary home, because now my even more dream is to be able to go to home in heaven, to where I can meet up with everyone that I've met before and be able to talk about what has happened since. Mission trips, yeah, they have really taught me a lot about God. The way I look at it is it's like a big family, because you don't know where any of these people are coming from. It's just like, people from all over the world coming into one place, and it's almost like a glimpse of heaven.
Service impacts the world and us in different ways. From constructing a place that helps provide a window into the past and God's creation, to showing empathy to girls whose lives have been marked by tragedy, Maranatha volunteers are transforming the world, one project at a time.